Rachel, for joining, and everyone who is coming in to join our lunchtime conversation today. Rachel, we're excited to have you. So why don't we kick it off? Why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I don't want to spoil everything, so I'll try and really keep it brief. Again,
okay.
I'm live from New York. I've been living in New York for over 4 years now, which is crazy. And I think just to start growing up, I grew up in the Philly area, so naturally sports was an instant connection. But I think as I grew older, my genetic build kind of proved that I wouldn't be as successful playing. That nice Jewish background, that nice, not really strong build, just it wasn't going to be the long-term plan. But I always loved the spirit and the energy of sports and the rooting interest and how sports bring people together and they invoke emotion. And so for college, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I wanted to choose a place where it was big enough that I could figure it out and that it had this contagious sports and campus atmosphere. And so by going to Penn State and experiencing everything I did there, I switched my major a couple of times, joined a couple different clubs, like really just tried to understand what I was good at. And I think I centered around this hybrid of creativity and business. I was an advertising major, had a business minor, and I thought combining the two would be really cool, but didn't really know how to do it. And it's interesting now, I'm sure we'll get into my specific experiences, but so far, all of my experiences have either been in sponsorship, marketing, or a combination, which I think in hindsight is that creativity and that business together. So currently I'm at MSG in our digital partnerships department. It's crazy because I've been there for 3.5 months. I started just before quarantine in February. So it's been really interesting to learn a new role in this situation and try my best to both learn the role and make relationships throughout the organization. So it's been really interesting.
Wow, well, that's great. So let's go back to, so we know that, playing sports, you kind of started but share with us, how did you discover your love for sport? And we talked, we did a pre-screening before today, but I want you to share your story about your family in sports because I think that that's really important.
Yeah, totally. I think that really defines how I've gotten to where I am now. So I'm from outside of Philly, and growing up with an older brother as my only sibling who was already obsessed with sports, it became very natural for me to become in love with them as well. And so also during that time, it was the 90s, the early 2000s. Being in Philly, it was Allen Iverson and basketball, and the hype was so real. And I think what's also so great about basketball is that it's so low barrier. All it really involved, like for basketball to become interested, we had a hoop in our driveway. You were able to play rec leagues. Like I understood it so easily. And also to go to games, tickets were very cheap back in the day. You could spend $5-10 and get a nosebleed seat. But I think what's interesting is that from such a young age, I think I developed a love for the business and marketing side of sports before I even knew what that was. So going to games, I wanted to get there as early as, I wanted to drag my family there early because I wanted to experience any sort of activation or marketing thing, whatever they had. I wanted to do a contest, paint my face, like do anything. In the game, I wanted to sit in my seat because I wanted to see what was going on the court, but also the entertainment. I loved the theatrics of it. I loved the weird halftime shows. And I understood sponsorship, which was weird. I specifically remember I wanted to be the McDonald's small fry of the game. They would choose a cute kid every game, put them on the center hung, put a fry cardboard cutout around them, and I never got picked, and I was a little bit mad.
Oh, no.
It's okay. I don't know what the prize was. I can't remember that, but it was a brand connection that I understood, and I liked that. And so that was just by going to games. I think also keeping up with the team during that time, it was the newspaper and TV. So the newspaper, we would waiting for the bus stop, we would look through the sports section and analyze player stats and team conference records and box scores and like really try and point out like the weird stats. We would guess on the betting odds for that night's games, like the point spreads. Like what? I was 7 years old, and now altogether, I understood sponsorship, analytics, marketing, in-game. But what's interesting is that, so watching TV, you'd watch people speak, you'd watch like the sideline reporters, and that was the first time I saw a repetitive face on the sidelines actually in sports. And granted, I don't think I could keep it together at the time that people were working in all those different fields. So I started college as a broadcast journalist because that was what I saw. And I think I very quickly learned that not so much for me. I think I'm good behind the scenes. I like a project. I like the visual stuff. It's funny. This is me kind of validating if I'm good at broadcast journalism or not. Here we are in this live together. It's about as far as I'll go in broadcast journalism. But it was from such a young age that I liked all the different areas. I wasn't just invested in how the team was performing. I loved the experience and I loved keeping up with the team. So now it's so interesting to have either worked or work with all those fields. Right.
So if we asked you, what is your favorite sport? Would you be able to select or name your top three?
Yeah, that's interesting. I feel like people who know me, I feel like people know that I love football, but I think I view football as purely a fan sport, whereas basketball, I like working in it. And I think working in basketball gets me closer to it. There's 41 games in a regular season. Like it's a lot tougher to keep up with basketball, whereas football is once a week. It's on a weekend too. Like it is leisure for me. I look forward to it. And so I like kind of keeping that as fan oriented as I can.
Yeah.
And football, I gravitated to much later in life. It's definitely not as low barrier as basketball. I wasn't playing it. It's more expensive to go to games. So yeah, I'd say basketball to work in, football to be a fan of.
Yeah, similar experience. So it's interesting. I love basketball. My older brother played basketball, and we used to do family outings because he was the high school star on his team. And then later in life, I became a tennis fan. So I never wanted to work in tennis because I just wanted to be a fan of tennis. Basketball, I just love working in basketball. I mean, that's a whole nother discussion. But anyway, back to you. So we know that you worked on the team side. We heard you say that you worked on Octagon, so you worked on the agency side. So will you walk us through your career experience to date? Because I'm curious. I know that, and I don't want to steal your thunder because I know that you're sure with the audience you've worked for multiple teams. Just would love to hear what that experience has been like in terms of the differences or similarities and what you've learned.
I'll try and keep it brief. It's interesting. I graduated college 6 years ago, and now starting at MSG in February, I'm starting my 5th different role. That's insane. But looking at my trajectory, I had 3 different trainee roles in 2 years and then was with the Nets for 4 years.
Right.
And now I recently just started. So it's a little bit distorted, but being on the agency side, I worked with 2 different brands, which are 2 completely different experiences. And then I been on the team and venue, property, whatever you want to call it, that side. I've worked on 3 different properties teams, and those are all completely different. So for me, I got my start on the agency side in Octagon and its sister agency Advantages trainee program. It was tough for me to get a full-time role, but I think I applied to it on a whim, had no idea what it was, and accepted a role where within a week time span, I had to tell my parents that I've packed a suitcase. I am going to go represent LG Electronics and travel the country and activate at college football tailgates. So for the fall semester, it's funny that I call it a semester, but for the fall 2014 college football season, my job, I was purely travel. Me and 3 other relatively recent college grads, we traveled from market to market, tailgate to tailgate, activating an LG Electronics branded college football fan fest. So we were targeting passionate college football fans. I got to explain, and we drove from school to school. We drove in a football wrapped Chevy Tahoe, LG Electronics branded. We drove over 15,000 miles in like a 4-month span. I lived in hotels. It's crazy looking back, but I was 22. It was awesome at the time. Sessions to my name. I'm like, sure. I mean, Saturdays were a long work day. I would say it was like a 16-hour work day. So you had to set it. It's like a 3-hour setup. You had to activate, stay there, then clean it up. And
right.
It was tiring, but it was amazing. And so then after that, it was, all right, what now? I have no idea how to apply what I just did anywhere else. So I stayed at Octagon. I found a role in their corporate headquarters. It was in Norwalk at the time. They're in Steinberg now.
Mm-hmm.
On their BMW account to make it work. Because it was another trainee program. I lived in my aunt and uncle's spare bedroom. There was no way I was gonna have a lease like that. I couldn't afford it. So that account, I was on the BMW account, and BMW at Octagon is a huge account. There's so many different layers to it. I was specifically on a team where now from going to college tailgates, I was now a part of helping to plan and execute private auto launch parties to try and get super wealthy people to increase their consideration of buying BMW.
Okay.
A little bit of a shift from before. Just
okay.
And so that experience, I learned a ton about client management and how to meet the standards of a brand like BMW, and they want everything tied in a bow and done perfectly and aligned, and it's checked. Like you just gotta make sure everything is done. And so from there, I learned a ton. I learned a lot, and I'm glad that I did it. For me, I work better when I can connect to what I'm working on. Whereas my audience for college football, it was college football tailgates. That's awesome. Passionate sports fans. Great. I don't know anything about cars. I don't need to be in this like super ritzy environment I wanted to get a full-time job so that I didn't have to I wanted to live in the city. So
right.
I think on the agency side, I've learned, especially if you're on the brand side, you're most likely put with one brand, and that's who you're working for. So it felt like, all right, I was working for a sports marketing agency, but in reality, I was working for a luxury automotive brand, helping to do ritzy events, and that just wasn't me.
Yeah.
It can be other people, but it just wasn't me. And so I then was looking full-time in New York, looking full-time in Philly, getting rejected still. I was a year out of college. So I found with the Sixers, applied for a couple full-time roles, got rejected because of internal candidates. So then when their post-grad associate program, those applications came in, I'm thinking, all right, I'm a year out of college. Do I want to take a post-grad internship, basically? But it was for the marketing department of the team I grew up loving. And so for me, I could live at home. I just thought, you know what? Let's try it. If this doesn't work after the season, then I don't know if this whole sports thing is going to work out for me. But we're going to try. And so I was on the marketing team. And what's interesting for the Sixers at that time, even still now, the Sixers are just a tenant of the arena. So it's a completely different operation. Now it's a part of Harris Blitzer Sports and Entertainment, but that's with the Prudential Center and the Devils. So it was still, it was still such a completely separate entity. And so that season also was the 2015-2016 season. It was the heart and soul of what you call the process. It was a 10-win season. I learned how to market a 10-win team, which I think it'll be really beneficial in the long run, and how to increase fans and get drive fan affinity so that when the team is better, they're there. So it was really interesting. And so from there, I was applying as if I wasn't going to get hired full time. I had no idea what was going to happen, and saw a role with the Nets available in there. It was marketing solutions at the time, now called partnership strategy. And I think when I saw that role, it combined the advertising experience I had in college with sponsorship experience I had at Octagon with the NBA team experience I had in Philly. And I was like, this is me. I never existed, but this is me. So I hounded down the recruiter. I wanted to make sure I was known. I LinkedIn messaged them. I figured out the email extension. I emailed him. I was like, I'm your girl. It's me. And so I got the role, and it's crazy. I spent 4 years in Brooklyn. I went from 3 jobs in 2 years to 1 job in 4 years.
That's great.
That's where hold on, I actually need a little bit of water. That's where we crossed paths.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that experience, like, I loved it. I met a ton of great people. I was able to be a part of developing best-in-class partnerships, from brainstorming to actually laying out the visuals to working with different areas of marketing to make sure that our partnership objectives align with our brand objectives. So it was really beneficial to me. And that was the first time I worked,
Okay, Rachel, you've frozen. So hopefully you'll be back. The little hourglass is going, going. Bear with us for a second, guys. Back up. Okay, let's see. Let's get her back. Give us 1 second. We're going to get her back. You're back.
I don't know what happened, but we're back.
You're back. Yeah, you just paused, and the little hourglass was going and going and going. So we're glad you're back.
We're back. This time period in our lives is all about adapting. So
That's exactly right.
Anyways, so at the Nets, that was the first place where it was a conglomerate of teams and venues, and everyone working together. So that was really eye-opening for me. And now I also went from the Sixers to the brand that I knew and loved to Brooklyn. I think I'd been to Brooklyn once before moving. I'd never stepped foot into Barclays Center. I couldn't name you one player on the Nets. Like, it was an educational experience where I learned how to do my job, and I learned about this team and this brand. And so I think there are pros and cons for working for the team you love versus a team you don't know. Because the team I don't know, I can view it more from a work and more mature lens. So that made me grow. And so then I'm year 3, year 4, and I've done a lot of work I'm proud of, worked with a lot of great people, and was just ready for my next challenge. This was the role I moved to New York for. I had never worked in Manhattan. Out of all of the areas that I was able to work with in marketing, I saw the most opportunity in digital. I thought that space was just so interesting, and there was so much to learn in that space. And so I thought that getting a role on some sort of digital side, I had no idea if it could be partnerships oriented. I saw that as such an opportunity for me. And it's funny, when I saw this role currently that I'm in, it was, this role isn't a thing at the Nets. This is interesting. Which, when I took the role at the Nets, that wasn't a role in Philly. So these roles that didn't exist elsewhere. Right. So now I saw that role, and I thought, okay, this is my opportunity. Let's go get it. And so I am a part of digital partnerships. So now I'm spending less time going through actually creating proposals, and it's more so the ideation and development, but now I'm doing a lot of campaign execution and getting the content up and running and analyzing the performance and just being a lot more analytical than I've ever been. Yeah. So it's really interesting. So in a nutshell, that's a little bit about my career. It's like every place has been different. Now at MSG, I went from, in Brooklyn, it was the kind of challenger brand, that next man up, like just new and edgy. And now at MSG, it's tradition, it's history, there's Becca, and being on all of these like different types of brands. Yes, I'm working with teams, but it's these cities, these brands. And so I've learned a lot, and every experience has just been so extraordinarily different. So. Yeah,
and what I love is that you've gone from Philly, with the venue, the team, and even though the team was a tenant, to Brooklyn, new venue, competing with the other venues in the market, the Nets truly transformed, and now you're at the world's famous arena. I don't know, I'm sure it's a different tagline now, but you're at the you're like at the Mecca. So congratulations.
There physically for a month. Now I'm in the Mecca, aka my apartment. But...
Right. Well, we'll get back. We don't know when, but you'll be there soon.
Definitely.
So, Rachel, one of the things, as you know, one of the reasons that I've started this lunchtime conversation is because I think it's important for us to all be inspired and pay it forward. So based on your career and all your learnings, what would be 3 career insights that you would share with the audience today?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still learning. I think that I'll tell you what I know, but I'm really, truly still learning. I think one, it's the importance of owning your story. I think not enough people take the time to look at their past and figure out how these experiences have gotten you to where you are. And if you're applying for a specific job, how to elevate specific aspects. And I think that's really important because usually when you walk into any sort of interview, any sort of thing, the first question is, tell me about yourself. And
right.
I don't want to hear your resume again. It's like, I want to hear about you and I want to hear what makes you you. And that it just sets the entire tone. And I don't know how many I've gone through. I've only interviewed like interns and very entry level people, but the amount of times where they just bore me from the start, and it's very difficult to once you start it off and I'm not interested in who you are.
You're done. Yeah.
I think also during this time especially, but in general, I don't think I need to harp on the importance of networking, but more so just the importance of networking in a circle and making sure that you're acknowledging all areas. Like, say if you're in the middle of a circle, you want to acknowledge the people above you, the people around you, the people below you. Like, you need to be out there meeting everyone and taking the time. I think that a lot of people who are just starting, they just look at the people above them because they want to impress them. But I think that there's so much talent going on around you. And even now it's all right. I'm 6 years out of college. People below me reach out and I want to help them, but I'm also interested in hearing what they're doing because they are smart. They are proactive. I'm scared they're going to take my job one day. So I want to get on their good side. They might hire me. And so I just think acknowledging all areas, because in reality, as you grow, you're growing and everyone's growing. And if you're in a circle, it's like you're all kind of doing it together. You have support from all sides. You don't just close yourself off. And I think, let's see, there's one last one. Ooh, I had it in my head. Okay. I have one more. I think the last piece of advice, I'd say it's okay to not have it all figured out. I think too many people go in with this plan on paper, check mark. And if you're not doing that, then, oh no, you failed. When in reality, especially in sports and entertainment, this is an industry that you can't really mark down your path. It's so difficult to go in with the approach of this is my plan, this is my 5, 10, 15-year trajectory, and that is it. We're in an industry that changes left and right. We're in an industry where who you know and what you do is so important, and that there could be someone who comes in and gives you an opportunity you never thought. Or this is my second role in a row that I've taken that I never knew existed. And it's I want to be putting myself into those type of, I'm interested in certain things, but there's not I need to be X title by X age, or I need to be here by this. I need to be in New York for X amount of years. No, just live your life, take advantage of every opportunity, but really just don't feel like you need to know everything.
Yeah, I love it. Great insights. Thank you so much. Congratulations to you. Your career, thus far has been really great. I'm so incredibly grateful that I got to know you during our time in Brooklyn, and even more happier to see that, you're in a new role, specifically on the digital side, because, you, along with a bunch of other people, are going to be rocking this industry. And I'm going to be like, I knew them when. So keep it up, Rachel. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We will be back here next Tuesday at noon, and we hope to see you then. Have a great weekend. Thanks, Rachel.
Wow, it was so great. It's crazy that you wanted to talk to me because I was, it's like we looked up to you, and it's very cool to be able to have this mutual relationship and grow together. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I think that it's really, really important that people and everyone understand that relationships are a two-way street. And I can echo your sentiment in regards to those that are younger than you that are reaching out to you, that you want to know about them too, because I think we all have a story, and we should all have a platform and an opportunity to share that story, because you never know who you're going to inspire today. So you clearly inspired me. So